I wish I knew how it would feel to be free, sung by Nina Simone and other great gospel artists. I know you're going to enjoy the show today. I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all the chains holding me. I wish that I could say all the things that I should say. Say I'm loud, say I'm clear for the whole round world to hear. I wish I could share all the love that's in my heart. Remove all the bars that keep us apart. I wish you could know what it feels to be me. Then you'd see and agree that every man should be free. I wish I could give all I'm longing to give. I wish I could live like I'm longing to live. I wish I could do all the things that I can do. Though I'm way overdue, I'll be starting anew. I wish I could fly like a bird in the sky. How sweet it would be if I found I could fly. Well, I'd soar to the sky, then look down at the sea. Then I'd sing, 'cause I know. Well, I'd sing, 'cause I know. Well, I'd sing, 'cause I know. 'Cause I know. 'Cause I know. 'Cause I know. Ooh, I know. Oh, no. I know. It will be free.
Woo! Thank you, Lynette. Lynette, my minister of musical, no, she's my minister of flavor and musical vibes. Woohoo! Hey, fam. Listen, I am Alexus Rhone, well, aka Alexis Grace. I've been trying to live into my new name. I'm the founder of Truth Meets Story, expanding empathy one story at a time, and the host of Jesus Jazz and Dessert Wine at Vespers. And today is Saturday, and you know what? It's a good day to eat French fries. Can I say that? I have been wearing out my refresh button, and finally I decide, okay, listen, you know, McDonald's, make it a double. I'm kidding. I hadn't eaten McDonald's French fries in years. I don't know if y'all remember that. They did this experiment where like the French fry didn't decompose or something. And after that, I was like, that's a wrap for McDonald's fries. Listen, today is a good day. And I am so glad to have you here with us at Jesus Jazz and Dessert Wine, Faith and Adult Storytelling Series. By faith, we mean mystery. How does God show up in all of our lives in ways that we can clearly recognize and say, okay, clearly there is a God and that God is good. That's what we mean by faith, just the mystery of how God shows up. And then by adult storytelling, I mean stories told for adults by adults in an adult manner for people who have a developed adult context. So that means that no apologies are ever issued here on Jesus Jazz and Dessert Wine at Vespers, because we assume that everyone who is here can handle what it means to be here. Now, listen, there is so much that is going on. And tonight I am especially excited because we are being blessed with the presence of a master storyteller. Our featured storyteller is, she got words. She got words, she got passion, she got heart. And I am so grateful to have her here. But before she comes up, I want to set up her story for you a bit by telling you something that happened. Gosh, it was back when the pandemic first hit. Well, no, I guess we had been on lockdown for about a month or so. And there were lots of anxious people. There was lots of deaths that were happening in minority communities. And we were trying to figure out, what was going on. And so on top of like our daily, stresses, this pandemic thing just seemed to be this whole other thing. So the Association for Black Psychologists, they were doing bi-weekly panel discussions. And the mission of that organization is to heal the psyche of Black people of African descent. And so they do phenomenal works. They have incredible scholarship, amazing scholars. And every 2 weeks, every other week, they were hosting a panel so that we could like have some discussion and some dialogue. And so on one of those panels, I think it was like in May or June, they were talking about, I think I can't, I've just lost count how many of our brothers and sisters have been shot by taxpayer funded guns. But it was one of those killings. And once again, here we go. We are trying to heal. We're trying to mend. We're trying to figure out how to keep things moving. So the Black psychologists are having this panel and everyone is having their say. Well, then at the end of the panel, they open it up for questions. And when they opened it up for questions, people were asking, about different things or whatever. And so the very last question that was asked was someone who said, listen, we're tired of marching. We're tired of protesting. What does real action look like? And the two brother psychologists that were on there, an older brother and a mid-50s brother, they both just started laughing. And they were like looking at each other, okay, doctor, you're gonna get this, you're gonna get this, you're gonna like, who gonna answer this one? And so apparently they had been fielding a lot of those kinds of questions from Black men in particular who were like, listen, this whole, we gotta love each other and that kind of stuff, like it's exhausting and it does not seem to be effective. This protesting, what else can we do? And so Dr. Wade Noble said, I'm going to tell you a story. And so he tells a story about growing up in a small Mississippi town off the Mississippi Delta. And he said that they were a tight community. And but one of the little girls in the community got raped. And he said, and the very next day, the guy who raped her was found tied in a crocus bag filled with rattlesnakes floating down the Mississippi River. And he said the little girl grew up healthy and strong because she knew that she was loved. She didn't need counseling. She didn't need therapy. She was healthy and doing amazing things in life. And he said, so I tell you that story for this reason. He said, you need to know that sometimes when you're talking about actions, not every action is going to be posted on social media. And if you're really with the business, then you have to just accept that you don't need a whole big committee or a whole big group. And he said, and that's all I'm going to say about it. Now, what's interesting is that I was like, okay, bet, let's do this. Like I felt comforted by that story. But I was surprised by the number of people that I shared that story with that were like, oh my God, that is like, and they didn't say that's horrible, but they just had this like, like this panicked expression on their face. And I thought, how sad that we are not panicked and like, oh my God, a little girl got raped. That bullshit has happened so often that we are concerned for the rapist. And that was so problematic for me. And I didn't have a problem with it. And a couple of other folks that were on the call, they were like, sucks to be him. Don't go around raping people and you'll be fine. Like, that was our take. But I was very sad by the number of people who were concerned by what happened to the person who raped a little girl. Never mind that the statistics bear out that when they get away with it once, and they've probably gotten away with it before, and they will continue to do it. But it was a done deal, and it was not problematic for me at all. I was like, okay, like I said, don't go around raping little girls. But then Dr. Wade Noble said, that's all I'm gonna say about it. And so I was like, oh snap, like, so there is a new day. There's some new actions that are happening. And there are people who are comfortable and courageous enough to say, okay, listen, what we've been doing does not seem to be working. I tell you that story to set you up for what you are about to hear. Fatimah Halim is a master storyteller. She is an amazing spirit. And the story that she shares is going to be one that will, it's going to land and it's going to stick with you for a minute. So I am asking you to receive her graciously and lovingly as she dresses her truth and story. Miss Fatimah Halim.
In order for you to know where I'm going with this, I have to tell you where I've been. I grew up in the Catholic Church. I loved that experience. I went to Catholic school for 9 years. I would go into the church. I grew up in Harlem, and I would go into the church all the time. That's when they would keep the doors open. And I would go into that church and I would sit down when no one was there. And I could smell the aroma of leftover frankincense and myrrh. And it was just so beautiful and peaceful. And it just calmed me to sit there. And I would look at the beautiful faces in the stained glass windows. And as I did this for years and years and years, I began to realize that there was not one face that looked like mine. And I believed so deeply in God. I believed everything that I was being taught in the catechism. I believed it all. And fortunately, one day, I opened up a book in school and I saw this picture of this beautiful, beautiful chocolate man, St. Martin de Porres, and he was a saint. But then I looked and he was holding a broom. And I said, oh, okay, see, now, this ain't going to be for me. You're going to get me up to heaven and do no cleaning. I ain't doing that. And that was when my search began for a spiritual tradition that spoke to my soul. And that's when I found the Nation of Islam. I loved it. It spoke to a piece of me that brought some courage out. It spoke to my blackness and how important that was. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. But then the Honorable Elijah Muhammad passed away. And then there was this schism between his son, W.D. Muhammad, and Minister Farrakhan. And I was torn. What do I do? Where do I go? And I opted, because I had been in the nation for a while. I said, well, let me see what Orthodox Islam is like. And so I went into Orthodox Islam, and it was absolutely beautiful. It spoke to a part of me that I didn't even know existed within my soul. It strengthened my love for God. It strengthened my love for a belief system. But then when I started studying more about Islam, and I was reading about how the Arabs had such an impact on the slave trade, I mean, how they were really involved in that, my search began again. I guess I was looking for something. But then I found Buddhism. And Buddhism was really nice. It was very, very peaceful. It set my heart at ease. It really did. And I would pray and I would be so peaceful. But every time I would go back home to Harlem, I was like, well, I think I'm a little bit too peaceful. I need a little bit of edge. And then I kept going. I found the African spiritual traditions through Ifa. And it was everything that I needed. It was everything that I wanted. It really helped with my connection to the ancestors. And my altars are still up. And I just feel this strong, powerful connection to our ancestors. But now I didn't go into initiation.
but it's strengthened my belief in who I am as a woman of God, as a God woman. And so let's fast forward to 2012 when Trayvon Martin was killed. Now, there were a lot of brothers and sisters being killed before Trayvon Martin, but it was Trayvon Martin's death that really impacted me because he was around the same age as one of my grandsons. He looked like one of my grandsons, and I could not get over that. It was it was frightening. It was scary. I got scared. I got mad. I had this rage inside of me that I could not get rid of. This rage. And it seemed as if all of that belief, all of those years of my searching for God, all of that years for finding God in me, all of that, it just started getting, it was like shrinking. My belief system was shrinking. I was so angry. And it didn't help that after Trayvon, it was like another one and another one. It was another brother, another sister, another person, another. It was like we just kept dying at the hands of others. And I was so angry. I was so mad. Well, one day, one of the churches in our community had a rally. And it was a rally so that the brothers and sisters can talk about what can we do? What can we do to ease the pain? What can we do to, to stop this from happening? And so I went with all of this rage inside. I went and I sat and I listened. And I listened to how they were like, forgive and love. And what are we going to do? And I raised my hand. Now, the minister knows me, and most of the community knows me. I've been blessed to be able to do some work. And so I've always had positive things to say. And I'm sure he said, well, come on up, Fatima, because he felt that I was going to say something positive and I was going to ease the tension. When I got up there, I said, the only way we're going to solve this problem is every cop that killed us, we need to kill the cop that killed us. Well, the church was up. I meant it. I was so angry and I meant it. I didn't care that I was in the church. It didn't mean nothing to me. I had no belief at that point. Everything was gone. It was like, yeah, let's start killing them MFs and let's just see. Let's just see what happens when we start killing them motherfuckers. That's how I felt. Well, needless to say, they were upset with me. I sat down. Of course, I was the only one on the news that night, of course. But we're going to fast forward to the following day, or maybe 2 days later. On the news, I heard about a cop being killed. I panicked. I was like, oh God, no, no. And I was thankful that it wasn't here in Phoenix, because I thought perhaps if they thought it was here, they would have thought I had something to do with it. But I panicked because it was like, no, I didn't mean that. There was something in my soul that made me realize that no, that's not the way. And at that moment, it was like this little pin prick in my heart and in my soul that began to open, and the light started coming in again. But I realized how powerful words are. I really thought that I threw it out there. I put that out there, and it was me. It was my power, and it was my word that caused that cop, that father, that son to be killed. I didn't want that. I didn't want that. Not like that. I didn't want that. Well, needless to say, my heart has opened up so much more. And though we are consistently being killed day after day, moment after moment, time after time, there's something in me now, once again, that realized the God in me is about love. And how are we going to fix this problem? How are we going to do this? What are we going to do? What are we going to do?
Wow. I stayed there for a minute hoping that you were going to give us a solution.
I wish I had it.
Well, you know what? I think that you did. Part of what I believe the solution that you offered was to acknowledge the rage.
Well, we have to.
Absolutely.
It's trauma.
Yes.
The things that are happening to us are traumatic. And if we don't acknowledge that trauma, that we are going through something that's real, and either get help or talk to some people about it, or have a circle of folks that can help us process this,
Mhm.
then we're going to live in this rage and it's going to destroy us. It's like taking poison and expecting the other person
Person
to
to
die.
die. Yeah. Yeah.
So we have to really be mindful of these and acknowledge them, but yet do something about them. We
And I
need to
think
talk.
And I feel like your acknowledging the truth of your rage was the first step in healing. Because what's interesting now, here is the backstory to that. I would have been at that meeting,
Hmm.
except I had a live event that I was producing. It was going to be next week, and we were in a tech rehearsal on that night.
Mhm.
And me and one of the featured storytellers for the show, Calvin Worthen, he and I were, at this tech rehearsal when we wanted to be at this community meeting, because we felt like that was going to be a space of healing, of us coming together, of us acknowledging the grief, of us acknowledging the anger. And yet Calvin and I are, we're sitting there in this tech rehearsal. And so we're the only two Black people in there, and everybody else is just kind of going on like business as usual. And Calvin and I are like, we're keeping it together while we're there. But as soon as that tech rehearsal was over, he was in my car, and we just had to just to process it together, the anger, the audacity, of that situation. And Calvin and I said exactly what you said. They need to start experiencing the pain and the grief. And so the next day when that cop was shot, Calvin and I called each other like, "Oh Lord."
Oh, so it
So
was y'all.
we
Or was that the triad? Was that the Trinity, the three of us, right?
I'm telling you, it was like, but here's what's also interesting. I didn't know it was you, but I was talking with a white pastor who was there that night, and in his describing it, he was saying that the meeting was wonderful and everything. And then he says, and then this woman got up talking about we need to start shooting cops. And what was interesting was that he said this after Calvin and I had already met and said the same thing. And so I was like, you know what? You cannot really be a true ally to us until you're willing to grieve and to understand the rage. You're just still kind of dancing on the periphery. You want us to play nice, but you're not
Yeah.
really yet about the business if you didn't understand the rage of what was expressed. And then it would be much later that I would find out that it was you. And so he's trying to say it's some random woman. I'm like, oh, no, no, no. Like, she's an important person in our community. So if she said it, then I know that there were other people in there that were feeling it, and they were grateful that
Yeah.
you acknowledged it. It was problematic for me that they were so busy. We always trying to get to love without
Yeah.
first raging.
Yeah. And the thing is, you ask, you said you thought I was going to give a solution. I wish I did have a solution. I really did. I really do. And I know that it's going to be a collective consciousness amongst us, amongst our people.
Yes.
It's going to be a collective consciousness that comes up with a solution.
Yeah.
And it's happening. And I am so encouraged by this young generation. It's wonderful to be able to pass this baton on to my grandchildren and to the younger folks, because they're going to come up with something, and I'm going to be right there. I'm going to have their back. I'm going to do whatever they need for me to do, but I'm going to step back and let them do what they have to do. Let
Absolutely.
them walk this is their journey at this point, with our assistance, with our wisdom, with our, because we've walked the path, but then there's another one now that they have to walk. And I am certain that they're going to come up with something, and through a collective consciousness, because they're not going to be able to do it alone. They're going to need us. They're going to need the old heads, and they're going to need the young ones coming up behind them. We have to do this together. So yeah, I don't know what the solution is, and I'm not supposed to know, because see, it's like my children are living in a world that I can't even access. So I'm going to trust them, and I'm going to be there for them.
There it is. There it is. Wow. Thank you so, so much for that. That was so beautiful, so beautiful. I'm gonna put you in the broadcast studio here. Don't leave me. Don't leave me. So here's what's so interesting about, I mean, I just love Fatimah so much, and I love the way she told the truth that I don't know what the solution is, but there is one. And it requires that we all plug in and play together, to get this done. Our pattern here on Jesus, Jazz, and Dessert Wine is to engage in 3 particular experiences. The first is the lament. We talk about the lament every week. And here is what I lament for this week. I woke up Wednesday morning to learn that 63 million people had cast their vote in support of a man who had sued a comedian over a sex joke about him, his mom, and an orangutan. A man who lies about his taxes. A man who lies daily. A man who lacks class and character. I woke up to 63 million people who had cast their vote in support of him. And then by the time it was all said and done, I think that number increased to about 75 million. Now, I was expecting a blowout because that's what everyone was saying. It's going to be a Biden blow. It's going to be a Biden blowout. And that's not what happened. White men and white women disappeared into the voting booth, and they cast their lots with that clown. Now, initially, it threw me into a weird space because that meant that white people who claim to be allies of disenfranchised communities, they're just really blowing smoke. They're not really with us. But here's the prophetic hope. I want to shout out to All Saints Episcopal Church in Pasadena, California. They held a 24-hour election vigil from 12 noon election day to 12 noon the day after election. And they had curators of content for each hour. So no election related talk or anything. It was, we had yoga and we had Buddhist meditation practices. And I even curated an hour. I did 1 hour of Black gospel mass choirs. Walter Hawkins, Edwin Hawkins, Richard Smallwood, James Cleveland, Detroit Mass Choir, Georgia Mass. I mean, it was a fabulous 1 hour time and a way for us to just really, connect with each other. And let me just shout out and extend some love and sincere appreciation to Melissa and Jim over at All Saints. They were present and awake the entire 24-hour vigil. They were the tech coordinators. And so it was just beautiful, the whole thing. And we were all filled with such hope that there was going to be a Biden-Harris landslide. And then they started counting the votes and they didn't match up. And I wondered, why lie about your vote? But here's why they lied. They were ashamed. And that is a reason to hope. If a person does something in violation of the common decency and they're proud of it, okay, then, whatever. But if you've ever done something of which you are ashamed, then to me, the fact that you have that shame means that we're moving the needle. There's something there. During the election vigil, the rector of All Saints, Pastor Mike, he said something that I've been quoting all week as part of the quote #solution. He said, as he lamented those 75 million votes, he said, it's time for us to get prayed up, studied up, so we can act up. It's time for us to get prayed up and studied up so we can act up. Now that we know that there are 75 million, mostly white men and women who cast their votes for 45, and that many of them are ashamed, we can now move decisively against calls for us to just get along, because getting along is not really an admirable goal. I've been studying Psalm 111, and it says the works of God's hands are faithfulness and justice. All God's commandments are sure. They stand fast forever and ever because they are done in truth and equity. So if you're looking for a lasting work, it's the one that is done in truth and equity. Those are the works that are going to stand. So my prophetic hope is that we will have people who will partner with us in dismantling these old systems and recreating new systems that serve the common good. You're gonna be looking for business as usual? No, that ain't happening. Like Nina Simone, our patron saint here for Jesus, Jazz, and Dessert Wine sang, it's a new day. It's a new dawn. And I'm feeling good. It's my prophetic hope. Ashe, Selah, so be it. And here's my energizing memory. And I actually have a picture of it. In 1993, I went with a group of my girlfriends to New Orleans for the Bayou Classic. And it was my first experience with all day drinking and all night partying. It was also my first time not spending a holiday with my family. You see, 2 weeks earlier, I had suffered a humiliating experience, and I didn't want to sit around with my family. I wanted to kick it big girl style. And so I did. And in this picture, like this is this whole trip of me having a good time and leaning into what the songwriter meant when he wrote, or he or she wrote, what if I had not believed I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living? I would have perished in my affliction. When I think about this particular experience and these beautiful women, all I know is that life is worth living and everything is most definitely working out. And so I pray for you this week that God would flood your memory with evidence of so many good things. There's a lot of good things that are happening. And finally, concerning giving, here's what I hope you would do this week. Give a note of appreciation. I was in a writers group earlier this week, and one of the sister scribes said something that filled me with so much hope. And it was just her sharing an experience that happened at work and how she stood up for herself. So like what Fatimah said, this next, like the folks that are coming up, we're not playing them same games. They're not playing those games. They will speak up and they're going to show up and advocate on behalf of themselves. And she did it with such class that it stayed with me. And then the next day I had to just send her a note of appreciation, say, hey, like that stands with me as a sign of hope. Give that same sense of hope to someone this week. Give them a call, give somebody a compliment, give them a listening ear. And of course, give love, mercy, grace, all good things that you have been extended. Just be givers of all the good things that you've received. Before we close, I want to go ahead and plug our next week's gathering. Miss Shauna Mead, she is a hilarious adult storyteller. Be very clear. She has a hilarious story about how she came to be the mother of, quote, all these damn kids. Miss Shauna Mead. Hopefully she's on the line today. If you're out, come back tomorrow. Come back next Saturday and see us. And now for our blessing, our sending. Love is not an option. It is a command. May the command to love lead us towards creative solutions. Today, tomorrow, next week, forever. Ashe, Selah, so be it. Thank you for joining us this week. We will see you next Saturday for Jesus, Jazz, and Dessert Wine at Vespers.